So I think we're good. Welcome back to our Tuesday Talks, everybody. Thank you for watching. I am joined by the usual Tuesday Talks team, Heather from Quantum Healing Within, Tony from Ropes and Wings, and our special guest this month is Cynthia Sue Larson. For anyone that doesn't know Cynthia, I have a list of things, of achievements I'm just going to run through. So Cynthia is a best-selling author. She has a degree in physics. She has a master's degree. She is a doctor of divinity, founder of Reality Shifters, president of the Mandela Effect conference. She's an intuitive life coach. And I've just found out she has a black belt in Kuksul One.
You got it.
Welcome, Cynthia, to Tuesday Talks.
Oh, thank you.
We're so happy to have you.
Happy to be with you.
So today we want to pick your brain about reality shifting, Mandela effects, telepathy, and number synchronicities. And I found you a little while ago on Alexis Brooks' Higher Journeys channel. Yeah, she's really good. And you were talking about how good can it get? And it just really struck a chord with me. And then I just started watching all your videos. So if anyone that doesn't know, Tony, myself, and Heather are quantum healing hypnosis practitioners and past life regressionists. And we get taken to a lot of different realities and dimensions in our sessions. So you are our perfect guest.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And I feel very affiliated and aligned with everything you're doing. I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. It's, I think, the most important work anybody could be doing right now. So, of course, I'm biased. But basically, yeah, to summarize, what is it all about? What have I been studying and researching all these years? I've been basically devoting my life's work to this topic of reality shifts, Mandela effects, and quantum jumps since the 1990s. And what happened then is I had a Kundalini awakening. So it felt just like being a conduit for so much energy flowing through me that it would wake me up at night. And during the 2 weeks, it was most intense. I was waking up every night at 1:11, 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, and 5:55, which I've never before or since done. And that was just the sane part of the experience. From there, it was really trippy, like getting instantaneous astral travel. I was just like lucid dreaming and experiencing realities that seemed quite realer than this one, actually. Which sounds like I was on a drug trip, but I can assure you it had nothing to do with drugs, but it had everything to do with blowing my preconceptions about the confines of physical material reality. And what I experienced was much closer to the true nature of reality that has been talked about in the perennial philosophies and ancient Tibetan texts and indigenous wisdom traditions from around the world for thousands of years. So I needed to summarize that quickly just to show that there was this activation kind of that happened for me. And I believe most of us go through some kind of similar experience that's a great awakening. And for many of us, this last few years, or even perhaps a little bit before that, I had a lot to do with people's awakenings. And then that dovetails into this idea of the Mandela Effect, which is a term given to what I was calling reality shifts. And the alive again phenomenon, where my definition of reality shifts that corresponds closely with what PMH Atwater had written about and Mary Rose Barrington in the United Kingdom had written about. And these are, I want to credit people who came before me, that what they were talking about is Mary Rose Barrington said it's just one of those things, JOTT. And she was saying things, the terminology that I use is things appear, disappear, transform, or transport. I did not know about Mary Rose Barrington's work until recently. For me, she was a reality shift. She sort of popped into my reality. And that's pretty cool because I've been looking for anybody else doing this research. And then PMH Atwater wrote a book, Future Memory, and her chapter 2 was all about reality shifts. And I want to credit all of this as the underlying foundation for what we now know as this extremely popular term of Mandela Effect. And also reality shifts is making a comeback on TikTok with hundreds of thousands of views on that topic. So there's this whole new wave of people coming into this area of interest of why is it or how is it that things can seem to teleport themselves around without anybody moving them? How can they appear out of nowhere when they didn't exist before? How can they sort of vanish? What is going on? And with the Mandela effect, that received the name Mandela Effect based on Nelson Mandela, having first been reported. I want to give credit to Art Bell on Coast to Coast because he mentioned it there. And then I think that's where Fiona Broome and some other people at a conference, Dragon Con, around 2009 noticed, and they were talking to one another saying, gosh, doesn't it seem odd that Nelson Mandela is alive? Because I think I remember he died when he was imprisoned on Robben's Island in South Africa. And they were all saying, yeah, I remember that too. And so the buzzword, the phrase Mandela Effect popped into being around 2009, 2010. It takes a while for these things to really grab hold. But that experience of the alive again phenomenon is what I called it in my work, my book Reality Shifts, when I talked about Larry Hagman being alive again. So I'm trying to tie this all up. It's hard to tie this topic together because there's so many people I want to give credit to that came there before I did, and before Fiona Broome, and even before Art Bell. So Mary Rose Barrington definitely gets a lot of credit.
What do you think the main differences are between Mandela effects and reality shifts?
Okay, to me, they're very synonymous. And the phrase for me, Mandela effect, tends to imply that there's obviously a huge group of people collectively experiencing, my definition would be a mismatched memory. I know that if you go to something like Wikipedia, you'll see that they'll report it as mistaken memory, or I can't see it that way. I need to give people credit for what we remember ourselves. I know what the work you guys do. Hopefully you're giving a lot of respect and credit to individuals and what their own experiences are. And I think if we gaslight people right at the get-go and say, well, we know that we've already figured it out, it's a mistaken memory, how can we be so sure? I would say that's, let's not do that. Let's not jump to some preferred description of what's going on, especially when it involves quantum physics, as you know. I'm just laughing because it's such a wild and woolly field of inquiry. So anybody that says that they know for sure what the working theory behind everything is,
can't.
No, they can't. So the differences again between the Mandela effect, sorry about that, and reality shifts. Often for reality shifts, it would be what we now call a personal Mandela effect. So reality shifts tend to be toward the personal, but they don't need to be. And when I've conducted surveys in 2000, and I did one again in around 2013, I was finding that people often experience reality shifts. You'd think that was just be on their own, but actually it's typically experienced with other people. I think that's when people acknowledge something did happen here. It's not just me thinking I put my keys down here and I came back and they're not there and they moved and there's no one in the house. That's a very common reality shift. But when you have several people that notice something's different, that's a whole different matter, because now we're moving into a territory. It's not collective misremembering. I know that's what they say. I'd prefer to say it's collective mismatched memories, where people have their very trusted personal memories, which I'd like to give credit and honor to. It's not necessarily a brain mistake. We have those for sure. But when you feel like I've got reason to believe that this happened, and there's a whole group of us that remember that, well, something's definitely going on then.
We have had in this house 3 of those reality shifts, and I've had them with my daughter. These shared experiences. One, her glasses completely jumped from one counter over to a table where we both witnessed her sitting her glasses down. And by the time she had walked over to the table, her glasses were on the other side. And we both sat there thinking, how did this happen? We're just looking. Another was she had something in her backpack that always stayed, a little pouch that always stayed in her backpack, her school bag. And we were doing some cleaning in her room one day. We pulled out a drawer that she never went into. And on the bottom of the drawer was the little pouch that was always in her backpack. And we sat there for the longest time. And I kept saying, Avery, did you put that there? No, Mom, no, Mom. And then another was a song that she started singing. And I said, "Where'd you learn the words to that song?" And she said, "Mom, you sing this song all the time in the car. You turn it up and you rock out to it." I had never heard it. I didn't know a single word. But she had that in her memory, that was what she witnessed. So what creates those things? How does that happen?
Yeah, this gets my go-to, because I think it's my experiences in physics, and quantum physics was my favorite part of physics when I studied at UC Berkeley. So I go there to look for answers. But then because we don't yet have basically a agreed upon interpretation of quantum physics, we have many possible working theories, which include things like a multiverse, the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, first presented by Hugh Everett III. So that's a very viable one, in my opinion. I also love David Bohm's holographic interpretation, which is that we're all interconnected. Everything's very holistic. And it's like, depending on your perspective and the way that you're viewing things, you'll get a different vision of everything, but it's still the same. It's like looking at a fish tank from different directions, with all the cameras set up to observe a fish tank, and like, how come it's all moving together? Like, well, you've got 3 different cameras on the same fish tank from 3 different observational perspectives. So that one's quite viable. I also actually like the Copenhagen interpretation, which was one of the first interpretations, which says that when an observer perceives something, to observe is to create the experience that you're about to witness. It's like the observer has a powerful effect. And then there are so many theories I love. I also love John Kramer. He's a physicist who's still alive. He's still with us. And he works with the idea that we are bicausal creatures. We don't just move forward through time. There's a handshake from the past and the future. And that transaction that occurs enables us to benefit from a future possible reality that's always talking with us. Frankly, I love all of these. And so I look at ways to kind of play with the ideas. I know that we're seeing absolute evidence that's proven in laboratory experiments that future decisions absolutely influence current events and past events. They've proven this with the double slit experiment. So, and I know for sure that we're seeing evidence of the holographic interpretation, where the subjective perspective is so important, and yet everything's so entangled and connected. And so I don't have one particular favorite, but I look at all of them. And most of all, I really respect and trust the firsthand reports I've been sharing for 25 years now and write about in my books, Reality Shifts and Quantum Jumps, because I think we, the observers, as we learn what's possible, what are the theories, I think we are all part of finding an exploration into what is going on. But long story short, what it boils down to is what physicist Max Planck, who coined the word quanta, what he said, which is we cannot get behind consciousness. Consciousness is absolutely fundamental. And so when we think about that, then it all comes down to who am I? Who are we? What are we really? And our connection with mind-matter interaction and this physical reality that we, I think, mistakenly sometimes say is the primary reality. That relationship completely is transformed when we experience what you're talking about, Heather. And I love those experiences with the song, with the moving items, the song especially. I had an experience like that in the 1970s. So my first experiences truly with reality shifts, they go into the 60s and 70s. So if you think about it, this is not a new phenomenon. It really has a long history. Shamans have known about it. Indigenous wisdom keepers have known about it. Tibetan Buddhists have known about it. And they've said, just ignore that phenomenon. It's like, focus on your meditation, on your spiritual practices. Never mind when things kind of blip in and out of existence. It's like, yes, that happens. Don't worry about that.
Do you think you're seeing more of it these days than you were 25 years ago? Or is it just people are more aware, or I don't know?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it a lot more, which I love, because I've been for a long time, I felt like the lonely person out there people were very kind to me, but you could just tell by the way my neighbors would take a few slow steps backward.
Giving you the
like,
look.
Yeah, I say, well, the socks in your laundry when they go missing, like,
Well, that happens here every day.
Yeah. But that part is changing because just the phrase Mandela Effect is becoming mainstream. It was featured on HBO. They came to our first conference in Idaho when we got together. It was just the West Coast conference at the time, but we were the beginning of the International Mandela Effect Conference. And John Wilson showed up he does that how-to with John Wilson. And it was an incredible experience because he has a comedy show, and he was making fun a little bit, but playfully. And at the end of that episode, I'm not going to spoil it, but you can tell that he absolutely is affected by the Mandela Effect. And I don't want to give it away. It's worth watching. It's first season, episode 3, and it's all about memory, how to improve your memory, I think is the name of it. And I don't have I have a bit of background talking in it, but mostly Christopher Anatra. He gets to explain some of his experiences, and then Jerry Hicks was there, and you can get a feeling of just the passion that we have to explore the topic. And I know it looks perhaps crazy or ludicrous until it happens to you, and then suddenly, as you know, your whole world changes. I'm like, okay, the thing I was laughing about, this is real. What is going on?
Yeah.
And so I'm just circling around it. What is going on? Our consciousness is interacting with the material world, and we can get profound, amazing, miraculous changes in reality that are seemingly limitless, including where we are in the galaxy, the way the land masses are. Geography seems to change. Human anatomy changes. For all of the humans on the planet, it looks like our kidneys have moved upwards under the relative protection of
And the heart too, as well. I feel like I
in the
saw that
center.
that was one in the center where it was over to the side.
Yes, it's
Well, I
moved to the
wasn't
center.
crazy on that one. I knew. I told someone about that, and they were like, "Are you sure, Heather?" And I'm like, "I think so."
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't know that stuff. That I didn't hear that before. That the organs are shifting too.
Absolutely. Yeah, there have been some amazing changes. And I think that gives all of us who are otherwise humans tend to worry, we fret, especially if anyone watches the news, especially these days. But if you remember, and that's why I think you guys are doing such an important job with the show that you do. I'm so glad you told me about your dream, Tony, that you had a dream to do this, to bring it into being, because this is exactly what people need to get this other uplifting news that massive changes are possible, basically miracles in a moment, in a second, just in like a nanosecond, instantly, and they are capable of affecting everything and everyone. And that's not the kind of thing most kids are getting taught in school, but our kids have the opportunity when they come to us, like what you talked about with your child, Heather, and just saying, "Mom, that's the song you sing all the time." A song you've never heard before.
Not this version, not this one in this reality. She's not singing it.
Yes. And so if you look at the very possibility, what if these, you might call it timelines. Some people, that's like a colloquial term that people sort of latch onto because it gives you a feeling like, okay, I can get that, like a timeline where, and maybe, I don't know how your daughter took this news. Like, I've never heard that before. How did she respond to that?
She just looked at me a little with a little side eye, like, "Mom, mm-hmm." And I just, I kept saying, so I said to her, I said, "I think this was on a different timeline." That's what I said. I said, "It was another timeline." I said, "Because we're on different ones. You were on that one and I'm over here on this one."
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm so glad it wasn't an argument. Sometimes when people first encounter these, this is where I don't like that word mistaken memories. You can see why, because immediately what happens if it's a loved one, a friend, family member, you're talking about your childhood together and they're saying, "Remember that time, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, that never happened. You've got an opportunity in that moment to have a conversation, to respect one another. Like, okay, you were in that reality, but I wasn't. And this is kind of cool. And you've got an opportunity to hear each other and recognize it's a mismatched memory. No one's mistaken. No one has to be proven wrong. And because sometimes we're human and we want to find evidence. I love this experience with the song because so clearly your daughter obviously knew a song. There's no way she could have known. She's not going to mistake you for someone else. Right. So we can start believing your daughter. Like, okay, that happened. She can believe you too, because why would mom lie about this? That why would you suddenly say, "I never sang that song"? And this is the important conversation to have when these
Yeah.
things happen.
They hear me
Claire-
saying weird stuff like that all the time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
Claire's asking, what is the deja vu sensation? Is that a time shift?
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, for me, when I've had deja vu, and I do get them, I get a couple variations. One is your classic deja vu, which would be, for me, what it feels like is I'm living a moment that I've dreamt about before. And it's like, okay, one time I was running, it was nighttime, the sun had set, it was a summer night. My daughters wanted to run across the back lawn. We didn't have a fence at that time, just run through the backyard to a friend's house. And I said, okay, why not? And so they're giggling. They're like 7 and 9 years old. I'm running alongside. We're all running barefoot through the wet summer grass. I guess I'd watered that afternoon. It was warm. It was nice. And all of that physical sensation, the moon, the breeze in the night air, I just had this just like wave of, oh my God, I've done this before. And it's like, no, I haven't. But yes, I have. And then I remembered, I've dreamt this. How on earth did I dream this in advance of it happening when it's such an unusual thing to be doing, running barefoot through the grass? So, and in that case, I knew this was a dream I had. When we're in dreams, we have the opportunity to basically, as you know, with quantum, the practice that you guys are doing, you can get close to God consciousness when you slow events down, when you get to that state of just slowing all of the experience of events down. So there's stillness. When you go into stillness, you're adjacent to basically eternity and infinity, or what we might call God consciousness. And from that point, everything's possible. When we dream, we can similarly access these states of mind, without really meaning to necessarily, but it's a natural process. It's part of who we are as human beings, and we're exploring that. So for me, that dream that I'd had, it made sense. It's like, well, of course I dreamed something in advance that's so magical and meaningful so that I don't miss it. And I feel like, let's explore that possibility. Dreams allow us to dance through all these possible realities. And anyway, and then of course, the other thing I meant to say about deja vu, it's another type of it would be where you feel like there's an incoming possible reality. You recognize it, you can steer maybe for or away from it. So we can play with it. Once we start noticing that we've had an experience, you can, especially if people work with you guys and they're doing that work to get emotionally clear, because it matters. You can't really get a good read on a moment, in the moment situation, unless you've worked to really clear old patterns from the past, so that you can be neutral and accepting and recognizing, I think I'll lean into this, or I think I'm going to be pushing this reality away. And those of us who work with this stuff, I think you know what I'm talking about, where there's an adjacent incoming reality. So if you have that deja vu and like, okay, how do I feel without panicking, without overreacting? What's my true feel on this? Like, and for me, sometimes I'll get them collectively for the whole planet, and I feel at that moment I'm a fail-safe, so part of the fail-safe project, just saying, no, we're not going to blow the world up right now. That's a hard no. And those of us who notice it, we're pushing it away, not happening.
Right.
So that's the kind of teamwork and collective consciousness that really exists. So there are many levels of the deja vu, so much to it. But I think when people talk about a glitch in the matrix, like they see the movie The Matrix and that cat walks through and then walks through again, they think, what is that? Is that something you guys would ever see? I don't see glitches quite like that, but I do see repeating things sometimes. So this topic is so huge.
I've been seeing the glitches because I've been talking to these guys about it. The birds that are sort of hovering in the air, the fish that have stopped moving in the tank. There's more, but weird glitchy things that you kind of go, what is that?
Yeah. Well, one thing that we're capable of doing without drugs, just by being natural humans and working with our natural abilities, our creator God-given abilities, is that we can, like I said, through meditation and sometimes through accidentally arriving in that state of transcendent consciousness where we can get into a state of stillness. And that is an access point for what people call 0 point energy. It's an access point for all possibility. So when you slow down, it's kind of like you can go into warp drive from there. And sometimes you can experience time stopping around you. I've seen that a couple of times where everything around me slowed to a stop. experiences where in both cases, actually both of my daughters each had a moment where they were going to go head first toward a very hard surface. And in both cases, time slowed to a stop. In one case, we were in Switzerland at a train station, and I could hear the sound. The sound slows when everything slows down, time and sound do too. And so the sound, it was high-pitched clicking of heels on the marble floor, because women dress up in Europe, and this is the 1990s, and they're all wearing their high heels, and I think Geneva or wherever we were. Anyway, but the time just slowed down, and so did the sounds. It went, ooh, I can't even do it. And then it just went silent. And so I had all the time in the world to catch up to where my daughter was ahead of me, like too far ahead of me for me to catch her as she fell. But when times everything slowed down except me, I guess I was going at warp speed. I felt like I was walking normally, but I could catch her in my arms, so she didn't fall head first to the marble floor. But this, I think, is related, and I think we get these experiences when we need them. So if you need to see that reality is not what you thought it was, and you just need that little nudge, that jolt, that kind of electric wake up, like, wow, this is so different than what I've been told, what I thought was true.
Yeah. I had a really strange one on Sunday, Mother's Day. So I'd bought my mum a book from Amazon, a cookbook. It came in like a brown cardboard envelope. I opened the envelope, checked it was the book I ordered, put it back in the envelope. Did not touch that till Mother's Day on Sunday, and I wrapped it and handed it to her. So she got home and she was reading through the book. She was texting me, oh, this is really good. But there was a Mother's Day card inside the book. I had already given her a Mother's Day card separate. I'd never seen this card inside the book before. It was still in its wrapping. It hadn't been written on or anything. And I went on Amazon. I'm like, maybe there was like this book comes with a Mother's Day card offer or something. It was very odd.
That was to prepare you for today.
And I thought, what are the chances of me ordering a book and somehow, oh, she's gone. Somehow a card gets stuck in there that's the Mother's Day card. How strange.
I think that was because we were having this chat and you had to have a little experience. So here you go.
I'm still scratching my head. I'm thinking, well, there obviously was a timeline where I bought the card and put it in the book thinking, I'll remember it's there on Mother's Day, or I don't know.
So interesting.
The card wasn't written in?
It was still in its wrapper. I had never seen this card that was in the book. I had written her a separate card.
That's all.
And I hadn't opened, I hadn't left it lying around. It was still in the cardboard envelope that it came in until Mother's Day morning when I just wrapped it.
So
wow,
crazy.
That is so cool. Love it. Yeah, then you know for sure something's going on.
Something's going on.
Nathalie is asking, she's woken up twice in the same hour. Was this a timeline shift?
You say woken up twice in the same hour. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but
so
because we often wake up twice in the same hour, like it's like you fall asleep again, wake up again. I take it that's not what she means, though.
No, that's probably not.
Sounds like she means so if it's hard to get the detail on that in the chat, but maybe she could provide more.
Yeah, give us some more detail there, Nathalie.
Yeah.
If you wanted to shift, let's say, onto a higher timeline, so a better timeline where you're experiencing whatever it is that you want to experience, what are the steps that a person would take to work that way? How would you do
well,
it?
And yeah, people do ask for these recipes and steps all the time, but I want to just be honest and say it's more to do with it's more like a yogi master or martial arts master. I just want to put that out there so it's understood. Results vary based on the years of meditation and energy practice you put in. And some people, it seems like they were born little masters. And I think a lot of our kids are. So I'm not saying that everyone has to first develop mastery. I'm just saying results vary a lot individually. So saying steps, like, what do you do? Oh, I can talk about that, but within that range of what to do, it really makes a difference to take this quite seriously, to develop the areas that need development for you individually, if you're really looking for those best results. So the best results start with first clearing, like, I forget which one of you said it, but it's really clear that I think, oh, it's how you brought this show together. It's the dream you had, Tony. That's it. That's exactly it. So what brought this whole group together, Tuesday Talks, is the dream Tony had. Forgive me, I'm not going to try to say everything in the dream, but the key that I took away from it, if it was my dream, the thing I thought was, oh my gosh, wow, is this whole business of helping people release that emotional baggage that we tend to carry that ties us down, that we don't need to be tied down with. That really needs to be a first step, because if you don't have inner tranquility and an inner peace and a foundation of just harmony, neutrality, acceptance, it's going to be a lot harder to do everything else. I'm just being honest. So, I mean, so the kind of results that could happen, people say, oh, I'm in a rush, I want to do this anyway. It's like being in a rush when you're cooking and like, I'm just going to throw everything into the bowl. Like, okay, but it's not going to taste the way it would if you didn't have all that extra stuff in there, you know. And also, if we have fears when you're doing the manifesting, then you can attract exactly what you're afraid of. And people, they don't know that that's happening. And so then they feel like, I don't want to do this quantum jumping, reality shifting, because I don't like the way all the stuff I'm afraid of shows up first. Well, again, you got to clear it. And it is possible to be clear. And thank goodness for you guys and the work you're doing. And I'm not just saying that. You can see why it's so important, because if we don't do that first clearing step to become accepting, to become neutral, to become grounded and tranquil, peaceful, harmonious at the core, results are going to go a little bit wonky. The other thing I personally like to do is help to people align. So, because otherwise what happens is what they think they want may or may not be what's really their love, their true connection and affiliation and bond. And so if you're not honoring, and again, if you can't do this part, if you haven't cleared the previous energy and the trauma from the past, the anxiety, the fear, the anger, the grief, the sadness, all of that drama triangle stuff, if it's not cleared, then it's going to be bringing stuff in. So first you clear it all, so you're just good to go. It's like, it doesn't matter what happens, you're not reacting to it, you're just taking each moment as fresh and as new. Then when you're creating and manifesting what you are envisioning, what you like, your vision board, your affirmation statements, whatever it is that you're focusing on, matches what you truly genuinely love, which matches what you absolutely need. That's alignment. And I'm just covering three main groupings of chakras, but it's kind of head. There's a neural center, of course, in the brain. Heart, there's a neural center in the heart. Gut, guess what? There's a neural center in the gut. So this needs to be aligned. Again, the question of who are you and who am I is everything. And so when you have this alignment, it's not even really like following a recipe anymore, because pretty much what you think is what you love. It is what you need. It manifests, and that becomes your natural process. And so this is my favorite approach. So it's not really a recipe or a step-by-step thing. It's an inner transformational journey. And that's long-winded, but that's the best summary I can
Perfect.
do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I saw you do a lovely meditation on imagining that reality or timeline you want to move into. And I forget the lady's show you were on, I was watching it on, but it was really lovely meditation. I think you spent 20 minutes of the end of the show doing it. So just, there was the just going into a meditative state and feeling and sensing that timeline was there as a possibility, and just feeling into it, which was really, really great. I've taken that away with me. I do that myself.
Oh, wonderful. I think that's so important, especially in these sort of chaotic times where it looks like a lot of what people were counting on to be true always is changing anyway. So if we lean into this whole change and transformation process, we can make it our friend. I know people often don't want to deal with change. I know I don't like it either. That's human nature, but to just practice the art of relaxation and knowing that in that stillness, everything's fine. And at your core, everything's right with the world. And we are all connected as we need to be. And we're exactly right in this moment. And just taking that moment to clear and release everything we don't need. It's such a beautiful daily practice.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So Nathalie had explained that now. She had got up, went to the bathroom at 10:24, went back to bed, went to sleep, woke up again at 10:24 in the same night.
Oh, I see.
Interesting.
So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to cover the thing. I'm not being negative or anything, but some skeptics would say, well, you looked at the clock, you were tired and you misread it. And I know.
No. We
And I
don't
know
believe,
that
we
there's
don't
no-
believe that.
Exactly. Like I know Natalie would not be sharing that with us if that was the case. If she had any scrap of or shred of doubt, she'd say, well, I'm not sure. But obviously if you see the numbers and you know that that's true, and then you do all that activity and you're back, and then time has done that funny thing. I've had time collapse like that. And these time shifts are some of the most typically commonly reported firsthand reports of reality shifts that I've documented over 25 years. And what the kind of things people notice, it might not specifically be this one, but the one where they get in the car, they're about to do a 5-hour drive, and they've got their tapes and music and everything, because it takes 5 hours to drive there on freeway, speeds and so forth. They've driven it before, but then they show up and only 2 hours have elapsed and they were not going triple speed or anything like that, not breaking all land speed records. So that kind of thing is extremely common. And I've also experienced watching a clock in a waiting room when one of my daughters was in for an appointment. And I'm reading a Just So story, which it was going on and on and on. I thought, well, that's perfect. We won't be able to finish it, of course, but somehow not only did we finish it, but there was extra time. The whole thing was crazy what happened with that time that day. And everyone's experience of time that day was so different. Yeah, these things with time can totally happen. And some people actually, I thought Natalie was going to say, and then she woke up and it was before 10:24, because that could also happen. And once you know that can happen, then it's like you're primed. So now you can I'm not sure you'd want to experience that, but you can experience that. I like to ask, how good can it get? I like to live in that realm of optimal possibility, just to keep inviting an open-ended experience of new kinds of reality shifts that I will enjoy. And I try to keep an open mind. They blow my mind too when they happen quite often.
Yeah.
Like when a flat tire was fixed when I hadn't fixed it. And I just pulled the car over to the side of the road and now it's perfect. And so not only is there no flat tire, but it's like perfect. And then when I still couldn't believe that it happened, it was very disorienting. But with these time shifts, I think those can be quite disorienting too, because we tend to be working under the assumption that time always moves forward. It never goes back. But time does not necessarily work that way at all. I've met my future self. These kinds of things do happen to people. And I'm not the only one that's experienced that. So time is extraordinary.
How did you meet your future self? What was that experience like?
Well, I was about 16 years old. So like I said, I've been a lifelong experiencer of these bizarre phenomena. Because the year then was 1978. And I was just recently gone to bed just a few minutes earlier. The light was out in the room. I was living in the Sacramento Valley, the Central Valley of California. And I just with my eyes closed, I felt a presence in the room. And I opened my eyes and I saw someone who looked like me, but decades older, sort of float walking out of the mirrored, I had like a wall-to-wall mirrored closet. And she was just walking out of those mirrors and very soothing, very loving, very comforting, greeting me. I was talking back to her because I was 16, and I guess I wasn't quite clear on the fact that she was talking telepathically. So if I can hear her telepathically, I don't need to talk. But I was saying things out loud, my 16-year-old self. And she just moved, sort of float walked over to where I had a roll top desk. She opened a lower drawer. She was still very soothingly, lovingly talking to me. She removed something, I wasn't sure what, shut the drawer, and then she went back the way she came. And I was flabbergasted, like, what the heck was that? And then I was thinking, I was just very confused about the whole experience. And then my door opened to my room. That was confusing too. Light came in from the hallway, and it's my father. Are you all right? I heard like a voice. And I thought, I'm fine. I was talking to myself. I didn't know what to say. It was so weird.
Literally.
Yeah. And then in the morning, I woke up in the morning. I was still like, what the heck was that? I must have dreamt that. What the heck? And then I thought, oh my gosh, what did she get from my drawer? Now I'd hidden something under the drawer, not in the drawer, but under that drawer. So I pulled the drawer out of my desk. It was what I'd hidden were these love notes that my boyfriend, who became my first husband, had sent to me. I tucked them under the drawer. They were gone. And I thought she stole them. But I thought that's impossible. That was a dream. My sister must have done it. Now, how would my sister know where these things were? Anyway, I storm into her room and accuse her. She's still asleep, poor thing. And I'm accusing her. You stole my letters. She's emphatically denying it, of course, because she didn't know I had letters there. She said I wouldn't take them. I didn't take them. That's ridiculous. And then I felt bad when I thought the only explanation is my future self took them from me. And
What for, I wonder?
well, it turns out it's a good message, very personal message. Basically just showing that you can just because you think your life is set in a certain way, you can change it later on. And because that marriage did come to an end. So it's a way for me to have given myself a very, very supportive message without any kind of push or influence, really. No exertive influence, but when I look at the experience, it's like, oh, that's giving me permission to, like, you can let that go. You can move on. You'll be okay. And it was a childhood sweetheart relationship. So having that kind of support is very empowering later on. It's only understood with 2020 hindsight. So it was a very powerful personal message.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I love the phrase, how good can it get? I use it all the time. And I just think it invites that magic, doesn't it? I feel like I'm inviting magic into my life when I say it. And it's the same with the repeating numbers that I see. I feel like the universe is saying, come play.
Yes. I love it. Excuse me. I'm just going to drink some water.
So should we talk about the numbers a little bit? Because I am seeing them all the time. All the time. It's really ramped up, especially the past sort of 6 months, I would say.
Yeah, the numbers are such good indicators. They also convey sometimes additional information, and different people can have what kind of numbers are you seeing in your life? Because it can be so personal.
Well, they change, but the past couple of weeks it's been 33, 31, 13, ones and threes.
So mine is fours and sevens. Fours and sevens are ones and sevens. Tony, what do you see?
Sequential numbers, usually 222, 333, 444, always 555.
Yeah.
And there can be different meanings and significance for each of these. So really talking.
Uh-oh.
Have with nature and reality. Okay.
You broke up a sec, but you're back.
There you go. You're back.
Okay, good. Yay. Yeah, so the numbers, I think, we can start with the ones that Tony mentioned, the 222. I think that's very common and people can relate to that. And I think I was talking with you folks about how with my Kundalini awakening, I was every night for 2 weeks, every night waking up at the 111, waking up at the 222, the 333. That was amazing. And I felt like it was an activation sequence for me personally, very much like going up, like when you're practicing musical scales before playing something. It felt like sort of a test pattern, or just like we're coming in strong at these levels and we're helping you acknowledge like chakra by chakra, pretty much like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't have a clock that goes 6, 6, 6. If we did, I'm sure I would have seen that too. But these numbers can show up almost anywhere. Like you might see them on license plates, you might see them on a clock, on your watch, on the computer, on your device like your phone. And when we get them, like for those of you ladies, you're getting different interesting combinations of numbers, like the 1s and the 4s and the 7s and so forth, and the 3s. These numbers can have profound significance personally. They might remind you specifically of something. For me, when I get numbers, during the Kundalini experience, I was also acknowledging different levels of conscious agency and levels of myself at different vibratory frequencies. So when I would get a number, I get them like, to me, they sound like keys on a piano. I hear chords when I see numbers. So if I get 333, that's like playing like all the C's on the keyboard. And you're getting that perfect sound of the C across the entire range of the keyboard. It feels like that. And when I get like 1, 3, I have different combinations that come up for me, like 1, 6, 8. I'll hear that like a chord, and it's helping me to acknowledge. For me, the number 1 is like it's a photon. It's a singular quantum particle, and it's just very it's extremely small, of course, and it can exist either as a wave function or a particle form. And so when I hear 2 and 3, each of these numbers resonate with me at a different level of conscious agency and awareness. We humans tend to think we're 3D, but actually we tend to mostly work in 4 because we have height and width and depth and time, so we sort of move in that time-space continuum of 3 XYZ coordinates and then a coordinate of time. And so 4th dimensional, the number 4 is our typical regular state of conscious agency and awareness. But we are high dimensional beings. And when we move into the higher levels of this conscious agency, where we have, especially when we work on ourselves and become all of one accord, integrated from head, heart, and gut, then we are capable of exerting causal effect on a global scale. And we're meant to do this. And we work collectively with one another to do this. We can say prayers and so forth. So these numbers to me are really, for me personally, representing awareness of the higher range. And I use my hands when I think about 10-dimensional consciousness, because we've got 10 fingers. I think it's a clue. The first 5 are more or less daily life. 4, I mentioned, is 3 dimensions of space with 1 of time. 5 is where you get into that state where you can dream in advance, have the deja vu experiences. And then when you get onto your other hand, then you're going to go into 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are those are above the fray, above the noise kind of levels of awareness. And so they're not better numbers. They're just numbers that can help us to maintain high states of conscious shared agency, where we work in collaboration with or without electronic media, that we can be all of one accord and helping with that shared wish, how good can it get, raise the vibratory frequency and experience for everyone. So these numbers to me are extremely meaningful. And so when I get the combinations, which seem random, like, 1 and 4 and 7, to me, that's, oh my gosh, what a chord, what an amazing chord. Because then you're playing with, it's like the point source of creation, let there be light, that single photon, a brand new world. And then 4 and 7, 4, of course, is that daily life. 7, then you're resonating at 7th heaven consciousness. It's really rising to a level of shared, it's like the new earth. And like people talk about moving into the 5th world, but to me, it feels like it's being guided, of course, by 7th dimensional consciousness. So these numbers, I'm just sharing my personal experience with them. They're so powerful. And of course, you can look things up. What do the numbers mean? What are you can look up numerology. You can look up the meaning behind particular numbers. And there are some amazing sources on that. And there are power numbers like 21 and 31 and 44 and all that. I'm not so much getting into that. But when you get into this world of numbers, it's like, we could do the whole show on just that. It's huge.
And I love how you said that it's like activations, because that was the first thing when I started going through my awakening that came into my experience. before that was the 2016 that I mentioned. It was numbers, and it was every day, all day. It was every single one of them. And I've got like 100 or more screenshots on my phone because I thought, is this happening to anyone else, or is it just me over here? And I didn't realize, but now I look at it as it, like you said, it's activating, and it's starting to put your conscious awareness out of this physical reality. Like you're going, okay, there's something else going on here. I can't figure out what it is, but there's something bigger at play than just, I happen to be seeing these numbers every single day.
So for you, Heather, did it feel like higher level of consciousness, like a hidden order, like there's some higher self kind of a feeling at all?
I don't know that I even knew that at the time. I had not even stepped into any of this world. But it was almost just like, it was like flashing, wake up, wake up, wake up. Here we go. Here we go. We're getting there. It was every day. It was so crazy. But we hear that a lot, don't we, with our clients who are coming in for sessions, and that's oftentimes a big part of their awakening too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? Sorry, what do you do with the numbers, Cynthia, when you see them? Do you have a process or?
Well, yeah, I'm coughing. That's my high self-talk saying, say it. Like, okay. So, yeah, well, it's going to sound wacky, but not to you guys. Back when I was noticing the numbers, one of my guides who looks a lot like a dragon, but it's a good dragon, not a bad dragon. I think dragons can be quite powerful and helpful. This dragon kept asking me, and it would do pop quizzes like, Cynthia, what levels are you thinking with right now? And I'm like, oh, and so that's how I came to notice. It feels like a chord. It feels like I'm in that sort of blissed out neutral beginning consciousness state, like a photon, like one. I feel one, and I feel like, okay, and then what else? And the dragon be like, what else? And I notice, okay. So I was noticing my own levels of conscious. I was feeling how I'm feeling and translating that into the numbers. That was my first experience. And then when I saw the numbers, I mean, I also, of course, had seen the numbers 111, 222, the activation sequences that tuned me up. But these other numbers are so interesting. So I've now forgot your question. I'm so sorry, Karen.
I was just wondering if you had a process you went through when you saw the numbers.
Well, the first thing I do is I do it if it's safe to do so. In other words, not operating heavy machinery. Then switch off it's a meditation practice. I just shut down my my left brain processing center, which is very analytical. I throw it a bone to chase or something. Go do this. Keep busy for a minute, because I'm going to be receiving time. But sometimes it'll just switch down happily. Sometimes it wants to chase a ball. Like, okay, solve this puzzle while I relax. And then when I'm relaxing, then I receive instantly a knowingness of what this is. So I'll just get that hit of, oh, this. Sometimes the number will be a connection. I've got a dead friend that might be talking to me, and he's just saying like, oh, good. I'm so glad. And he's giving me a very clear message. If I realize it's him, then I know, oh, that's what the numbers are. And he's here right now and I can feel it. But if I'm shut down the rational analytical and instead I'm getting a different kind of message, it might be something of that moment. And of course, it usually is of that moment, but it might be specific to something else. I'm just thinking of recent experiences. Sometimes it's often a message, so I'll look into it, I'll feel into it deep, like I'm reading a dream symbol. I realize this is a dream. Let's read it real time. Just like following a dream analysis protocol, I recommend people write down the narrative first. So whatever happened in the dream, you write the narrative down. Step 2, you pull out the key players and actions. Step 3, you do free association for each one of those keywords. Step 4, put it all back together. But you can also, if you do this often enough, you don't need to write all those 4 steps down. And in real time with that license plate right in front of you, and if you just, as long as you're safely parked or not driving, I don't want to give anyone the advice, go into a trance and continue driving. No. Take a photo or just write it down, save it for later, look at it later. But then you can realize that was profound, And it might be a message very specific to something you've been thinking about, might be answering a question you had, might be giving you fresh information. All of these and more are possible.
Yeah. Sorry, Tony, I interrupted you earlier.
No, I see the sequential numbers all the time when I'm doing sessions constantly, and I just take it as, we're on the right path. We're
Yes.
doing what we're supposed to be doing right there.
Yes.
If I can, I want to go all the way back, because Song, we were talking about time shifts and stuff like that, and Song had wanted to know your thoughts about time moving so fast that we get used to things manifesting almost instantly. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Yeah, time can seem like it's moving. Events can seem like they're going fast. The instant manifestation, that's, to me, those are two kind of separate topics. They can go together. Yeah, I guess what I'm noticing usually when they go together is that, wow, the instant manifestation for me is part of alignment. It's part of, because it doesn't seem to happen as much. I think that's, thank goodness, because if I'm out of alignment, I don't want things manifesting instantly. It's more likely I'll get stuff I'm afraid of, don't like, I'm anxious about, haven't resolved something. I don't want to see that right yet. So I'm grateful when there's a bit of a slowdown. Speeding up of things. I recommend that when you feel like that's happening, maybe it feels like it's too much. I don't know what motivated this question. If it's a good thing and you're feeling like, yeah, everything I'm thinking it's happening, excellent. That's great. But if you're feeling about all of that is, this is a little too fast, then I'd recommend going to the stillness meditation. And what that'll do is when you come out of it, you'll have that instant manifestation. You'll be in alignment more likely. But you'll have had this wonderful bliss out time of eternity where you can reorient to however fast time may have seemed like it was going, and it'll seem different. So you can change the flow of time when you go into the stillness and then you come back out again. Now, obviously it is a practice. So the first time you do it, if it doesn't happen the first time, well, good that you did it the first time, stick with it. And eventually that's a beautiful side effect, is that you can come out and time is no longer racing forward, at least not the way it had been.
So the interesting thing about Song is when Kaz and I talked to her on YouTube, because she's the timekeeper, so she experiences being able to slow time down, and that's pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, she's the keeper of time. Had 2 sessions with Song actually, and she's the keeper of time, and she's on some sort of council. Yeah, we do all sorts of crazy things in our sessions. So your dragon is normal.
We love
to
dragons.
us. Yeah.
Love.
Are there any other questions popping up, Tony?
Yeah, Alice just asked, why are my intuitive abilities stronger since 2020, please?
Wow. Well, I think across the earth, all of our abilities are ramping up. I think collectively we're getting an upgrade, and there are many ways to answer this. I can't tell cause and effect, but the energy meridian lines are absolutely increasing. So people that were tracking these, I think there's an emperor dragon line that Rory Duff talks about, and those just popped up recently in recent years, around the time people started noticing the Mandela effect, actually. So it's like, okay, these energy lines are expanding, and that's all to do with the earth and the cycles that we're in, the Mayan calendar and so forth. That all of this has been expected, predicted, anticipated, and we're just on track for all of that. And so this, but as we human receivers are sensitive to things like earth energies, we're going to be getting a huge boost to our own abilities, which we need in these times. So we're getting kind of collectively a big level up, power up. And for those of us who are sensitive and aware, we'll feel it. Some people may or may not feel this. It could be affecting even people who say they don't believe in any of this, they're not interested, but it's absolutely affecting everyone. And if you are sensitive to it, then you can feel like, wow, there's just so much more energy flowing through all of us right now.
Yeah.
But specifically, there could have been something that happened in your life too. Probably you are needed at this time for a great awakening, and to be a guide for others, and to, by example. And you might think, like, I don't have much influence, but oh my gosh, the ripple effect is real. That means everyone that you might think, I only affected a few people, but think of how many people they're affecting. And it's through their being and this way we hold ourselves that matters so much.
So as we, sorry, keep speaking at the same time. That's our telepathy kicking in or something.
I was just gonna bust or jab at Alice. She needs to get out there and start speaking more. We love Alice, but
go Alice, you can do it.
So as we expand through this time that we're in, Cynthia,
yes,
what do you see? Do you see any other abilities that we might be gifted that we hadn't thought of before or might be unexpected?
Oh, yes. I think there's going to be a flourishing of these abilities in the next few years. Absolutely. Things like telepathy, of course, and shared consciousness. It all has to do with these levels of self within ourselves, and then collectively with our higher selves and the communities that we're part of, because we do combine at these higher levels of self. We start working more and more in collaboration with others. It's much more collective, and we'll be consciously aware of this. So that'll be huge. We'll be increasingly aware of the whole topic today, which is Mandela Effect, reality shifts, that collectively, whatever problems we think we're facing, they can be addressed instantaneously. When we have a tipping point, when there are enough of us that recognize that we're, consciously or subconsciously asking and inviting, how good can it get for all of us? With the awareness that it is a collective evolutionary process that we're in, and that we're not selfishly doing anything. So there's going to be a whole lot related to the telepathy, to this blended consciousness, which has a lot more in common with some of the animals like bees and ants, where we can acknowledge and accept this sort of a collective mind, but a natural one, not one based on machines or computers. Just like we can feel a oneness with trees and plants and animals and each other. So this is definitely huge. And then all of the senses are going to move into their high sense perception capabilities, which means seeing things, seeing colors that we've never seen before, seeing things we've never seen before, recognizing the appearance of animals and plants that we've never heard of before, even if we're an expert in the field.
I've got one for that one. So a friend of mine said the other day, she was sitting in her house and she looked over at her wall and there was a blue bumblebee. Now, have any of you heard of a blue bumblebee?
No.
Okay, I hadn't either. And I said, that's a Mandela effect. I was like, is this a new species that has come into our reality? But like we were trying to figure it out. Anyway, I Googled it and there were blue bumblebees and they're absolutely adorable.
What?
And she said it's bright blue. It's almost like a cobalt blue bee.
Yeah.
She scooped it up. She took it outside. She talked to it for a little bit. It was the craziest thing.
This is exactly what we cover on International Mandela Effect Conference, and we do meet live stream every month, and we'll be meeting this Wednesday, in fact. And exactly, that's tomorrow. This week is going so it is going fast.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my god,
we're speeding up.
Yeah, but we the blue bees were new to me when we talked about them, and blue is one of the colors. We're seeing a lot of blue coming in: gold, blue, rainbow. These are the big colors. With rainbow, we're seeing on trees, islands, mountains, animals that we've never seen rainbow before. So we've had whole little mini episodes of our IMEC, International Mandela Effect Conference, on YouTube, specials, delving into these mandanimals, we sometimes call them, but the gold ones are big too. Yeah. Well, we talk about bringing in this golden timeline, that we're entering this fifth world that's been prophesied for so long. And of course, the color blue, if you look at chakras, then if we're moving from the fourth chakra, which is the heart, to the fifth, that's the throat, well, then,
Makes sense.
it's the color blue. And so those blue animals are coming in, the blue bumblebees, blue horses, just blue things you've never heard of, like what the heck. And
And so
it's extraordinary.
Is it just that we're shifting? So we're shifting out of the lower realities into the higher realities, and they already exist there. So now they are just coming into our awareness because we are in alignment with that. Is that, how do you see
Well,
that working?
I go into quantum physics again to see that. And this is where I love the work of Hugh Price. He's a physicist, and he talks about retrocausality. And he talks about wiggling things until things sort of settle. It's like in a quantum system, even if you don't know yet whether, I talked about these interpretations and there's no agreement which one it is. Maybe it's all of them. But if you look at the time retrocausality one and the wiggle factor, and you know that this is a great awakening on the earth, we're seeing these numbers repeating. We're feeling this amazing increase, ramped up ability to manifest, and whatever we think, there it is. And what if we can just sort of wiggle everything together until, and we're going to be doing this for the next few years. It's not just this month or anything. It'll be all of 2023, 2024, 2025. By the end of that year, that's the crescendo. It's like, okay, about this December solstice point, that's where this wiggling effect we're choosing, we're locking in this golden age that we're moving into. We're doing it collectively. And it doesn't matter. You don't need to be worried about anything that you see on the news or any of I'm not going to name all those people and agencies. It doesn't matter. They're irrelevant because this is a collective wiggling and a collective choice. And so we don't need to be afraid of anything because collectively we have the ability to bring all of this beautiful abilities set into basically creating this golden age together. We are co-creating it. That is what we're doing. So of course we're going to see things sort of popping into reality, people, things, new songs that you used to sing in the car that you've never sung before. So it's like a timeline merging kind of a moment. And there's this like jiggling. It's like solving a problem, a puzzle, or opening a lock by doing kind of a quantum bump key operation. And that's a technical term, which I guess people don't talk about because it has national security implications. But and I did work in information security previously, so I'm not giving anything away, but I'll just say that a quantum bump lock, we do this naturally with our consciousness. We're doing it right now collectively. We are calling in this golden age, the Shambhala. It does look chaotic because so many things are coming together as all these timelines converge. But I trust us. I trust the process. I think encouraging each other, like Alice and people who are kind enough to ask questions. Thank you, and you guys together, we're doing this. And this is what makes it so exciting and wonderful to be here on Earth at this time.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
It is exciting.
I'm going to focus on my Pegasus. I would like a Pegasus, please.
Yeah, just bring it in. Bring it in,
And-
Kaz.
And Kaz, you were seeing different animals and different colors in that session too. When you were on your Pegasus, it was like colors you didn't experience before ever.
Yes, yeah. Oh,
But
I
that's-
want to just see a blue bumblebee now, and I'm happy.
Oh, just Google it. They're adorable. I keep asking, I'm like, universe, where is my blue bumblebee? I need to have at least 5, please.
Well, I think
Yes.
everyone should be watching Mandela Effect conference live tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
What time is that, Cynthia? For
Okay.
for
I think
you
it
at
starts,
least.
I don't remember the start time. I think it's usually we start at 2:00. I don't remember. There may have been a time adjustment for this one. So check the channel and we'll be giving the notification. We should be sending an announcement out later today. I'm in charge of that, so I need to get on top of that. I usually put it out on the YouTube channel, and then we have a Facebook page and a Twitter page for International Mandela Effect Conference. And it'll be an amazing episode this month. Shane's been working on putting the slides together for us. We'll be talking about these human upgrades and some very specific ones that are coming through that we're getting evidence of. And that's always exciting. Some beautiful animals. They're always exciting and fun.
Well, I'm going to be there.
Good. Love to see you there.
So
Amazing.
the beautiful thing is I feel, Cynthia, that our sessions, we're cleaning and clearing everybody. These are like the springboard for amazing things, and start seeing the changes, changing your reality. Can you talk a little bit about do we have time? Yeah. Talk a little bit about how to manifest our reality, how to change our reality.
Well, it's all about internal balance and recognizing levels of self and self-awareness. So that's why I keep honoring you guys with what you're doing and the show that you've created. It's the core of it. And as you correct, I agree with you. Maybe it's not full correctness, but I love what you're saying, Tony. Because when you get that feeling like, okay, feeling like I'm in tune and I'm finding some of my people, maybe on the internet is easier than maybe in your community, but just knowing that there are like-minded individuals out there and that we are rising above the drama, the human drama. By that, I mean, I'm referring to the Cartman drama triangle where, the victim, the rescuer, the perpetrator, it just seems like a cycle that repeats and repeats and people feel like I'm stuck in it. My family always does this. You've heard this before.
Yeah.
But to rise above it, of course, thanks to folks like you, and I do this with my clients too, then we get to the ability of recognizing now what we manifest, what we envision, what we love, what we need. And when we come together, we're pulling it together. We can actually start feeling that we're seeing the very things we're looking for. We're seeing signs of peace, signs of prosperity, signs of cooperation. And I know skeptics again are going to say blah, 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 and point at all this other stuff. Okay, fine. But it really is the cup half full or the cup half empty. And by choosing how good can it get together, by choosing how beautiful can this world be and become, and by choosing to put all of our heart, soul, and passion and vision into this, we are absolutely bringing it in and we can start to see evidence of it. So the process begins personally. I would recommend everyone keep a gratitude journal and then put your dreams in there too, and put your reality shift experiences in there. So it's kind of a reality shifting dream gratitude journal. The point is to start reminding yourself anytime you fall into the drama, because it's out there, we're going to step in a puddle or two of anxiety or step in a little depression or sadness or grief or anger, but we don't want to stay stuck there. And so if you keep a little journal to remind yourself, like if people are obsessive about it, like, what do I do every day? Well, then just write down 3 things that you love that happened in the last 24 hours that you had something to do with. And if part of that is a reality shift, excellent. If part of it's a dream or a daydream, outstanding. Because what you're doing is at that level, you're starting to work with these thought forms of energy that are where all of creativity and all of reality come from. They come from these thought forms that we're shaping with these high level dreams, daydreams, gratitudes, appreciations, and awareness of this mind matter interaction, these reality shifts that are so amazing, so miraculous. And we can start walking through life with feet in 2 worlds. One in the daily, everyday life that even a skeptic could agree with, because it matches all the measurable stuff that they're tracking. And then the other foot in these higher realms where the numbers repeat. You have the dreams that might take you onto the back of a Pegasus and see colors you've never seen before. And have a dream that brings friends together to create something that the world needs right now. To find your voice, to share it just with 1 or 2 people. Start to see that ripple effect for yourself. So these are just some ideas, but hopefully it'll help.
Great ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to start a journal. The dream ones I find tricky. They seem to just vanish, but I'll try my best. Is there one more question, Tony, you feel needs answered before we finish?
No, I think we have all of them answered.
I do have one more question I'd love to ask because I try to figure this out myself. And in these sessions, we bring through information about multiple versions of Earth or multiple realities and even multiple versions of ourself. So let's break it down to just the self for just a moment. Are you always creating versions of yourself? So for instance, I remember a long time ago, I had read something where they were talking about if you have a decision to make, let's say you have choice A or choice B, you are focused on choice A, you go off in that direction. does an alternate version of yourself get created that experiences choice B? What do you think?
Well, back going on here, and
Oops.
maybe it pre-existed.
There
Oh,
you,
sorry.
you're back. You're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it seems that when we start looking at choices in a very real sense, as soon as that choice is there, to the degree we're feeling that we love it, that we need it, that we can imagine ourselves being there, that's the percentage that we're investing of our soul energy in that. So you can think of it that way. And there is a part of you that perhaps went down that path. You can benefit. I find I benefit from pruning my possibility tree past and forward. Like when people are gardening, you choose, you're the one who's working with nature to bring things into harmony. And so, for example, in my life, I've intentionally pruned out possible versions of myself that would be feeling so weak that I might be calling in some other dark spirit to give me expedient results at some cost of my own being. And I never wish to experience anything like that or propagate that in any way, shape, or form. So I intentionally prune those out. So I'm basically saying there are possible versions of me that I never wish to exist. And I feel that that's a collective of all the possible me's saying collectively, yeah, we don't need those, because I'm totally all in on this radical optimism path, the very path of how good can it get? I'm choosing it. And I'm walking my talk by pruning my tree past, present, and future. And so the pruning, I never much hear about that, but it's something I do. I talk to my clients about it. So it's not just that you want to open up all the possibilities. Maybe some you don't really want. And that's okay. It can give you a greater collective sense of an inner fabric of your soul that you're shaping, that you're consciously choosing at many levels of your being, which is a little different than what you were asking, I realize. But when you're looking at these different options, like how much of me is in this, I don't know. It could be a percentage. So maybe 10% of you went toward becoming a medical doctor, and 90% of you is doing what you're doing now, but you've got the benefit of that little insight, your foot in the door in the medical world, and you can feel that it's there, so you can draw from it sometimes. And then that part may feel sometimes the benefit of the rest of you that went into this other reality, but it's all you.
Right.
All of those are you. You can choose, if you wish, to cycle them through you, to experience all of you. Not all at once, but you can have the, and then do the pruning that I recommend. I really do recommend it. There's no need to experience everything. You can you can realize, I think I've had enough past lives in this area. I don't ever need to get involved in that kind of drama again.
Yeah.
I'm pruning it out. And so you're not cutting people from your life. You're just choosing parts of you that you don't wish to experience. And that is what tends to invite and welcome these material realities that then show up and seem to be the reality everyone agrees to.
Nice.
Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
idea of using the tree. The tree is such a great symbol, isn't it, for
Yes.
all these things. So Cynthia, what do you have coming up apart from your Mandela conference? Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, that's the main thing that's going on these days. Then I have a book that I'm working on for the Mandela Effect. I'm going through a whole series of edit, rewrite. So it's just a polishing process. And it's been very interesting. So of course I'll announce that when it comes out, but it's in the works. And very excited about that.
And people can find your books on
realityshifters.com is my website. I do sell them to people in the United States if they want an autographed copy, but they're on audiobook and ebook. You can find them, of course, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and some bookstores carry them. And that would be the books I mentioned today were Quantum Jumps and Reality Shifts, but I have quite a few, 5 or 6 books that are out there. Young adult novel, meditation CD, a book about money, high energy money, and then a book about energy, aura advantage. So lots of tasty morsels for people to contemplate and play with.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been amazing.
Thank you for what you're doing.
This has been so fun.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone in the chat who's been watching and asking questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all next time. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you,
Love you all.
Cynthia. Bye, guys. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.